So the reason your name came to the top of my list was we were speaking about your extensive, active editorial board. And that's what I really want to focus on, because this is about peer review, and your editorial board is unique in the peer review process than other journals, as you are well aware. And I just wanted to see if you could tell me more about the peer review process at your journals, and especially about that editorial board that you utilize.
So peer review, for my view, is about trying to make the best of a paper. This is what you need to do to make this paper the best paper it can be. The editorial chain's job is to say, if it were the best paper it could be, where does it rate in terms of our priority for publication? Now, a lot of people would say, you've got 4 levels of editor making a decision. Well, yeah, okay. I'd respond with a couple of comments. Firstly, yes, it is a lot. Secondly, we get it done in about 3 to 4 days. Turnaround's not too bad then. And thirdly, redundancy. We can lose somebody in that chain. We can even lose 2 people in that chain. And we've still got the principle of expertise applied to the decision making on the paper. So it allows us to stay at 24-hour, 7-day-a-week business to turn everything around quickly. And then each editorial level sees a different scope of the work, and they can adjudicate it against the other material that they see. So I will defend the complexity by saying, it works. And it builds redundancy, and it builds expertise into a very diverse field.
We know that you've recently diversified your board, and we'd love to hear the impact of that. So can you tell me more about that process?
Yes. So I think it's important for people to know that the journal started this process several years ago. So I was appointed editor-in-chief of the journal in October of 2016. And at that time, the journal had less than 10 editorial board members. And it was very clear just from looking at the members on the editorial board that there was very little diversity. And then when you started to dig a little deeper, there are other aspects of diversity other than, for example, skin color that we just didn't have on the editorial board. So this process has been one that has taken several years. And I think each year that we've gone about trying to diversify the board, we learn new things, we gather new insight.
Well, this project, like so many things that happen in peer review, took a while to get off the ground. We have our editorial boards for our journals who often serve as reviewers on manuscripts, and a few of them were dedicated to statistics, a small handful per journal. We found that they were often overburdened and had to quit for workload reasons. But we also found that the field of statistics is so wide that our associate editors, who are experts in nutrition, weren't able to keep up with it. Often they didn't know the appropriate person to invite to review novel statistics on a manuscript, because they are experts in nutrition, not statistics. So there was this real gap of information for who to invite to review statistics for a paper, but also getting people to say yes. Statisticians are in high demand, very busy. It was an overall workload problem. And finally, there was the problem of trust in nutrition science. I think we are all aware that there has been an erosion in public trust of science in general, but trust in nutrition science has been particularly weak. People feel like messages are conflicting and they change. And this was a really important concern to our society and to our editors. They wanted people to be able to read our 4 journals and know that they could rely on this as the top science in the field, as reproducible, and to build trust both within the scientific community, but also with the public at large. So as a part of the process, they decided to work together collaboratively to establish a single statistical review board to be shared across the full journal portfolio.
We found 12 or 14 associate editors to help run this new journal. And then a team of editorial board members, and I think we had close to 100 of those at the outset. And they were used for the first choice of reviewers, but then we had a much larger pool of additional reviewers. And all of these, we needed to explain how open access worked and how we wanted to enforce a speedy peer review process with distributed decision making. But unless there are some sort of complication, associate editors decide manuscripts on the basis of usually 2 reviews, but occasionally more if there's any disagreement between reviewers. So all of this was a new model at the time, this distributed decision making, plus the open access component, which does change a few things. Meant a lot of new documents had to be created and a lot of explaining had to be done.
We had 3 and now 4 editors-in-chief working collaboratively on the project. We put out an open call for applicants from people who were recommended by existing editorial board members, people who had listed statistics as an expertise in our journals. And we got an enormous number of applicants. I think it was something around 100, which is larger than most of our entire editorial boards. So the process of sorting it down was quite a bit of work. For those of you working actively in peer review, it was especially complicated because there's no editor-in-chief to make the decisions. There's no single person. It really fell on staff to do this work because each of our editors-in-chief was trying to be respectful of the others. And so the leadership position really fell on staff in this regard, to schedule the meetings, to initiate discussions, to decide when the quality of the statistician's work needed to be evaluated, and to suggest when new people might be needed. So it's been a very different and unusual project in that regard, because it hasn't had a single editor-in-chief in the nutrition field leading it. But I will say, our editors are delighted with the success of the program. They call it one of the most successful programs they've implemented. They believe it strongly contributes to the field to the strength of their work, and they are really happy with the initiative. I think those benefits, citations, and trust are fairly incremental and difficult to measure. And I imagine that it's difficult from an author perspective to notice the difference that having a statistical review board has. It's more something behind the scenes that our editors see, but some of the quotes I got from our editors include that all statistical reviews add substantially to the peer review process. Some have included previously unidentified flaws. A recent review from one of them was amazing. He even explained to the authors how to perform the analysis that he was suggesting. Or it's extremely useful to have the statistical review board. I feel much more confident that I'm making the right decision with their review. So it's been anecdotal evidence, but the anecdotal evidence has been overwhelmingly positive.
After we got these principles working at that first open access journal of the Endocrine Society, we then proceeded to make the same sort of changes to specifically distributed decision making at other journals, other society journals, the Endocrinology and the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism, which are older established journals, which it did not at that time have the distributed decision making. And then also the innovation of using research resource identifiers. We made a decision that we didn't want supplemental materials stored on the journal site, and we think that it's better that if it's deposited in digital repositories and linked to from articles. Again, that took a lot of explaining, a lot of working out of the procedures to make that happen. And we've continued to introduce changes aimed at protecting the integrity of the articles that we publish.